All Dogs Go to Heaven, a Don Bluth film. Chapter 1. A steady tap, tap, tap echoes through a stony tunnel far beneath the quiet grounds of the New Orleans dog pound. From the darkness comes an anxious whisper. Itchy, a few more degrees to the left. Itchy, a loyal dachshund armed with a tool for every occasion, strains to see the flickering beam of his miner's cap. He continues to tap his chisel in search for his best friend's voice. No, your other left, Charlie directs his nervous buddy from behind a wall of dirt. Once a carefree hound about town, Charlie B. Barkin is now a mutt with a mission. Tonight, he is going to break out of this miserable prison to which he was wrongly committed. As dogs go, dachshunds are built rather low to the ground, a fact that makes them particularly prone to getting dirt up their noses. Itchy tries to curtail his sneeze, but it's useless. Achoo! Dirt and rubble fly everywhere. Are you going to do that again? Asks Charlie impatiently. Stand back, Itchy warns as his nose gives off another tunnel-shattering blast. The force of the sneeze at last clears an opening to Charlie. Itchy, you're a genius. Am I glad to see you? Exclaims the convict, unable to see Itchy at all in the dark cavern. Where are you? Itchy fumbles toward Charlie, smack into a steel pipe that stands between them. In his hurry to remove the obstacle, Itchy blasts the pipe with the blowtorch, which flares dangerously close to Charlie's nose. Put that thing out, screams Charlie. What are you trying to kill me? I'm sorry, boss, but the pipe, Itchy explains as he produces a power drill instead. Wait, Charlie warns him. I think that might be a water main. No, Charlie, water mains are green, this is red. You're colorblind, Charlie reminds Itchy. That's true, but this is green. It's red, insists Charlie. Red? Echoes Itchy as he puts his mighty drill to work, pummeling through the water main. Water gushes from the pipe. From the dog pound, a fountain spews forth into the night sky like an erupting volcano. Aerial searchlights crisscross the pound. A siren wails, and two dogs stumble through an obstacle course of Itchy's precious tools. As they hurry to escape, there is no time to stop, not even for Itchy's favorite drill. But Itchy, true to his name, can't help himself and begins scratching as bullets whiz by. Charlie yanks his pal and drags him along. I can't help it, Charlie. I itch when I'm nervous. And Itchy has plenty of reasons to be nervous, as the pair escapes from a tail-hair maelstrom of searchlights and gunfire out into the night. Beneath a canopy of stars, crickets chirp and the Louisiana bayou glistens in the moonlight. Water laps gently against a derelict freight ship, home of a floating canine nightclub, once known as Carface and Charlie's Place. That was before Carface, Charlie's greedy pit bull partner, devised a secret plot to leave Charlie in the pound, and himself in control of the entire operation. Now, on the crooked sign, Charlie's name has been crossed out. Inside the dingy cargo room buzzes with excitement. A pack of rats careen after cheese on wheels, zooming around the loop-de-loops along the roller coaster obstacle course of oil slicks and mattress springs. Toward the finish line, from his box seat bucket, a bow-tied bulldog calls the race. As dogs of every variety cheer on their lucky rat to win them their share of the club's steaks and chops. A black and white runt named Squad Car wins the race, the long shot, leaving most of the motley crowd ripping up losing slips, downcast and broke. If you ask me, I think the house is rigged, complains one disgruntled fox terrier, who has nothing left to bet. A luckier chihuahua joyfully presents his winning ticket at a desk, only to be handed a moldy, half-eaten steak. He sniffs it disgustedly. Not the only thing that's rotten in Carface's joint since Charlie disappeared. But the show goes on. As a new heat begins, the dogs keep on betting and the rats keep on racing, until suddenly a triumphant yodel silences the hubbub. All eyes turn in shock to see, standing at the entrance of the dilapidated club, one Charlie B. Barkin. What do you know? What do you say? Calls the happy-go-lucky visitor. A bedraggled Itchy follows, echoing the salutation. The crowd faces them in stunned silence. Finally, down in the mouth Basset Hound asks what all the dogs are wondering. Charlie, ain't you supposed to be on death row? No, barks Charlie without hesitation. The dejected dogs gather round one by one, straining to believe their eyes, howling their woes to Charlie and Itchy. Things have changed, Charlie, since you've been gone. Life hasn't been no piece of cake, explains an elderly, once beautiful Labrador. Carface hasn't been treating us too good, adds a hungry Chihuahua, while Charlie tests his luck at the dice table. Things are tough, but we carry on, the Labrador moans. Could you spare a couple old bones for old time's sake? Wails the Basset Hound in his tattered old top hat. Charlie rolls the dice, a winning toss, and picks up his prize bones. Why settle for a couple old bones? Reasons Charlie, depositing his winnings into a slot machine. When you can have the whole bank. Charlie, look, you've hit the jackpot. And sure enough, from a huge net above, Charlie and all the gloomy onlookers were showered with choice bones and steaks. With Charlie back, spirits begin rising again. Charlie and Itchy are the life of the party, and the nightclub alights with their song and dance. Together they howl, you can't keep a good dog down. With the light crooning that no hard times or mixed-up pedigree could ever hinder their success, the old gang hoists them high over their shoulders like the couple of returning heroes. Before long, everyone is singing. All the festivity summons Killer, a mangy, nearsighted greyhound, down from the hatch to Carface's office above. At the sight of Charlie, Carface's wimpy stooge reels back in horror. How could this be? Charlie's unmistakable yodel resounds through the room. Charlie is back. There's no mistake about it. Killer slinks back into the bright lights and gleaming automobile decor of Carface's smoky upstairs office, not anxious to inform his boss of the bad news. The gruff old pit bull is relishing a cigar in the back of his mint Model T limousine. When Killer butts in to tell of Charlie's miraculous return. It's him, boss. I don't get it. I know what you're thinking, boss, but I don't know how. I don't know nothing about this. We set him up good. Killer. Carface's gravelly voice interrupts. I do not wish to share 50% of this business with my partner, Charlie. When he and his thugs arranged to have Charlie locked away in the pound, he was certain that he would never see that mud again. But now, you want I should go squeeze his head with the pliers? Killer laughs evilly. Killer, that's no way to treat an old friend, Carface explains between pit bull puffs of his foul-smelling cigar. Friends must be handled in a friendly and businesslike way. He grins, knowingly, baring his shark-like teeth. He has another plan up his sleeve, intent on keeping 100% of the share of profits. Below, as the party continues, Charlie makes his way up the old familiar stairs to seek out his old partner. Carface greets him with a mock surprise. Charlie-o, he purrs sweetly. Is it really you? Charlie makes himself right at home beside an old radio, turning up the music and helping himself to one of Carface's precious candy canes. He compliments Carface on how well the business seems to be doing, but adds with a sigh of remorse, the customers ain't laughing. Gamblers are never happy, Charlie. Charlie doesn't agree, and lets Carface in on his plan for a new improved nightclub. This place needs a little class, a little culture, some influence from the Theyre. Some dancing girls. He raises the volume on the radio, snapping his fingers to the music. But Carface lowers it. Charlie, you're right. But times have changed. You've done time, and that's not good for business. You're a dog with a record. I was framed, Charlie protests. I know that, Carface sympathizes, as if he had nothing to do with it at all. He prostrates himself before his foe, crying fake tears. You're like a brother to me, and that's why we need to split up the partnership. Charlie is shocked by the suggestion, still unsuspecting of Carface's true motives to be rid of him once and for all. His old partner convinces him, though, that he should set up his own club in a new location where nobody will know him or of his criminal record, as undeserved as it may be. To start him off, Carface generously offers Charlie half of his steaks and the T-bones, the porterhousers, even the mignons. But in the hidden chamber elsewhere in the boat, Itchy hears another story. During the revelry, Charlie's trusted friend accidentally discovered a secret entrance in a dingy back room. Now, from the shadows, Itchy finds himself eavesdropping on a conversation between some of Carface's goons, as they argue over whose turn it is to feed the little monster. When Killer interrupts. "Come on, dogs," he calls. "You've got a job to do. Carface wants you should get rid of Charlie." Itchy realizes in terror that Charlie is in trouble. He screams out desperately to warn his friend, but he cannot be heard from behind the secret panel he entered. Back in Carface's office, Charlie shakes his paws with his ex-partner. "This is sounding better all the time." He wags his tail over the deal, and Itchy knows that will never take place. Carface enthusiastically announces the new arrangement to his entourage of goons and directs them all to take Charlie to the Mardi Gras to celebrate with a different plan in mind. Chapter 2. The Mardi Gras festivities are in full force. Giant floats are colorfully decorated. Fireworks illuminate the sky. The crowds dance in the streets to music that spices up the night. Finally, free from the secret compartment, Itchy frantically weaves his way through the noisy spectacle dense with merrymakers to find Charlie. Nearby, inside a deserted parade float, Carface is carrying out the finishing touches of his scheme. At a send-off bash for Charlie, it is a festive group of party hats and all. "I'm sure I speak for every dog amongst us in wishing you the best of luck in your new adventure," Carface proclaims in his gravelly voice. "And now, as a token of our esteem, we're presenting to you this lucky gold watch." The pocket watch is slipped like a pendant around Charlie's neck. Charlie is stumbling about deliriously, but manages to land a sloppy lick on the watch and amuses himself with the quip, "Takes a lickin' to keep on tickin'." While the gang is singing Charlie's praises, Carface whispers the final orders to Killer's ear. "Take Charlie out back for the big surprise." A panting, out-of-breath Itchy is closing in as Carface's goon directs a reeling Charlie to the end of the pier. Itchy is still too far away to do anything but call out Charlie's name and whimper in despair, while helplessly he watches Carface's nasty plot unfold. Killer positions a still-singing Charlie on the mark at the end of the rickety wooden pier and blindfolds him. "Now stay here, and don't peek, Charlie," Killer instructs before joining Carface at the other end of the pier. Carface releases the brakes on an old model car and switches it into gear. Slowly it begins rolling down the dock towards its unsuspecting victim. "Goodbye, Charlie," Carface chortles. The bright headlights glare menacingly as the car is set on its deadly collision course with Charlie. Itchy desperately yells, but Charlie is too slap-happy to hear him, belting out the last notes of his song when the car slams into Charlie mid-yodel, sending him flying off the pier. Dog and car crash into the water with a thunderous splash. As Charlie plunges deeper and deeper into the river, bright lights and colors sparkle in a fantastic display. Charlie shoots through them like a tunnel and leads finally to a strange and wonderful place. Ethereal clouds part to reveal an ornate gateway, sparkling with diamonds and sapphires and rubies. "Where am I?" wonders a startled Charlie. "This is the Great Hall of Judgment," a beautiful whippet magically appears to greet him. "Judgment?" Charlie jumps nervously at the thought. "Oh, not to worry, Charlie. You'll go to heaven. All dogs go to heaven. Because unlike people, dogs are naturally good and loyal and kind." Charlie relaxes and agrees. "That's true." The elegant whippet, crowned with a plume of pink hair, takes Charlie on a tour of his future home. "This is a really lovely place you got here," Charlie observes, floating over majestic clouds where lions and lambs lie together. The whippet welcomes Charlie to a place that's always ordered and calm. Everything seems perfect until the Whippet points out that Charlie is dead. What? You mean I'm stone cold, I'm afraid, the Whippet assures him. I can't believe it. I've been murdered. Charlie is outraged. The Whippet studies Charlie's pages in the Great Hall of Judgment book. I'm having trouble finding any goodness or loyalty here, but let's see. Charlie can't concern himself with that. All he can think about is Carface. He killed me. There's gotta be a mistake made here. Charlie pleads his case with the beautiful dog, as he is adorned with a robe, wings, and halo by passing cherubs. My time's not up yet. Oh, yes it is. There's no mistake about that, the Whippet tells Charlie, as they float up to a layer of clouds where countless clocks are ticking and chiming. See, this watch is your life, and it's stopped. Oh, can't you just wind it up or something? Charlie ponders hopefully, while sloughing off his heavenly accoutrements. And send you back? Oh, we mustn't do that. No one's ever allowed to go back. The Whippet encourages Charlie to stamp his paw print in the book of records, where everything about him, past and future, is on file. You mean there's no surprises or anything? Remarks disenchanted Charlie. Heaven is a wonderful place, the Whippet enthuses. No surprises? Moans Charlie, again before asking the Whippet to dance. Together they waltz on a cloud as Charlie mourns in the wonders of heaven. Everything is so lovely here, so planned, so ordinary, and that's what's driving me crazy. Charlie recounts all the exciting plans he still has in store. Adventure, love, surprises. Heaven leaves him nothing to look forward to. He longs to return to his old life. And even though he doesn't like to steal, Charlie realizes that switching the watch Carface gave him with his heavenly watch is his only chance. The Whippet is so charmed by Charlie that as they glide through the cosmos of shooting stars and cratered moons, that it is too late when she realizes that he is up to no good. Charlie, what are you doing? Behind his back, Charlie was rewinding his watch. Charlie, don't wind that watch! The Whippet screams his name. There is an explosion of light. Charlie is catapulted back through the colored tunnel to life on Earth, and the haunted Whippet echoes behind him. You can never come back! A coughing, gasping, half-drowned Charlie pulls himself out of the water and onto the pier, startling a sleeping cat. He shakes the water out from his faltering watch, which glows from its perch around his neck, echoing the Whippet's final words of warning. Charlie is having none of that. He slams the watch cover shut and begins his painful journey through the bleak, rainy night to Itchy's ramshackle junkyard tool shed. Surrounded by clutter of tools and car parts, Itchy whimpers in his sleep as he relives Charlie's horrible accident in a dream. In his nightmare, Carface is now wrapping his hands around Itchy's neck to choke him. He is relieved to wake up and find that it is really only Charlie shaking him. Itchy, it's okay, little buddy, it's me, Charlie. Charlie, it's you. I saw Carface, and he was grabbing my neck, rambles a jittery Itchy, only to stop mid-sentence and add quite calmly, Oh, hi, Charlie, before shrieking as if he's seen a ghost. Charlie tries to quiet his frightened dachshund, but Itchy is determined to get as far away from the spooky apparition as fast as he can. Oh, Charlie, get away from me, get back, don't hurt me. A terrified Itchy tries to bribe the ghost, throwing everything from a 9-piece ratchet set to a Rolls-Royce hood ornament from his prized tool chest. Quiet, Itchy, Charlie soothes. I'm not a ghost, I'm not dead. Itchy is not buying the news. He continues to scream as loud as he can. Will you shut up? Itchy, I'm alive. Look. Do ghosts have fleas? Charlie confronts Itchy with the positive living proof that he's a real live dog, and he plucks a critter off of his back and flips it into Itchy's nose. Charlie, it's really you. But I saw the car in the river and your lifeless body flying through the air, Itchy sobs. Itchy, what can I say? Charlie chuckles. It wasn't my time. Now that he has his Charlie back, Itchy can't stop hugging him and shouting for joy. Charlie hushes him. He wants the news of his return kept quiet, figuring that if Carface thinks he's dead, then it will be much easier to get even with his double-crosser. Itchy has no desire to go up against Carface and persuade Charlie that he should go far away We could share a nice little place in the Himalayas. They got gambling, they got races, they even got a town called Tibet, Tibet. Charlie, more interested in figuring out how Carface's operation got bigger without him, the brains of the outfit. He's got something up his sleeve, Charlie thinks out loud. Yeah, a gun, says Itchy. Itchy has a pretty good idea of what Charlie does have and doesn't mind giving Charlie an inventory. Carface has got thugs, and they got muscles, knives. He's got a monster in the basement. Monster? Charlie repeats with interest. Monster. Perhaps he can unravel the mystery of Carface's success. How strange. A monster. Chapter 3. Itchy wants to go spying at Carface's and on a monster no less, about as much as he'd like to go to a dog catcher's convention. He resists with every step, but Charlie prods his pal along into a secret air vent at Carface's nightclub, where the two have a hound's eye view of the boat's dungeon room. Nestled between a labyrinth of pipes is a bed, beside which stands a figure in rags. Charlie, I just know we're both gonna die. In a situation like this, Itchy does the only sensible thing. He scratches himself like mad. Charlie has no patience for all this. All he can think about is the monster. Charlie grabs the terrified Itchy by the tail, which only frightens him more. Now there is your monster, Charlie chides his buddy as they peer through the vent grating as the monster pulls its rags, revealing a sweet little girl with short dark hair topped by a bow. She wears a tattered patch dress and clutches a rag doll by her side. Well, I'll be, remarks an astonished Itchy, as he watches the girl speaking gently to a caged rat. Carface appears in a cloud of cigar smoke with Killer trailing behind him. Mr. Carface, can I go outside today? The little girl asks politely. Sure you can, little girl, but first you must talk to the rat. Carface puts his head right up to the cage, not sparing the scared rat from his sickening cigar smoke. Even Killer coughs in protest. Charlie and Itchy discover Carface's secret. This is no ordinary little girl. This little girl can talk to animals, including dogs, and they can talk to her. After a kindly pat on Mr. Longtail's head, the little girl asks after the other two rats that race on Carface's track. Twizzle has a cold, the child translates after Mr. Longtail utters a string of rat noises. She could drink soup, the kindly child suggests. This continues, but Carface grows impatient with the little girl's concern for the animals. Hurry it up, hurry it up. I'm sorry, the little girl murmurs before getting the one question Carface cares about. So who do you think will win? After a few more sounds from Mr. Longtail, the child reveals, Oh, I see, the spotted gray. Carface, armed with the information he came for, grabs the cage to leave. With this kind of inside knowledge on the rats, the conniving pit bull has a tremendous advantage over the gambling customers. Shift the odds on the spotted gray and feed the kids. Carface's orders. Oh, boss, do I have to? Whines Killer. But Mr. Carface, you said I could go outside today. The little girl looks up sadly from the departing dogs. The door slams behind them, leaving no doubt that the little girl was not going anywhere. She sits down in the corner, weeping to herself. Up in his hiding place, Charlie is licking his chops. A little girl who talks to animals. It doesn't take a great thinker like Charlie long to figure out what a golden opportunity this is. His eyes are green with dollar signs. The jingle of imagined cash registers are just music to his ears. Poor child. We'll kidnap her. Rescue her, Charlie informs Itchy as they make their way through the grating and down a stack of crates to the small child. Little girl? Charlie softly calls for her attention. At first she is frightened, but as Charlie talks to her, she comes out warily from behind a staircase. Excuse me, am I to understand that you're being held here against your will? Let me introduce myself. I'm Charlie B. Barkin, and this is my associate Itchy Dachshund, Mr. Itchy to you. And it strikes me that this is not the kind of place for you. Charlie offers to take the little girl away, already setting to work packing her few possessions for her. He wonders aloud where her parents are. I'm an orphan, the little girl sadly admits. As far as Charlie's concerned, that's all the better. She can stay with Itchy. What's your name, little girl? Charlie inquires, but before she can fully answer, Itchy makes it perfectly clear that he wants out of Carface's boat and any involvement with this little girl. Charlie straps the packed bag to Itchy and gallantly offers the little girl stay with himself instead, giving her a doggy back ride out of the basement. Anne-Marie, huh? You asked my name. My name is Anne-Marie, declares the little girl in a spunky tone. Yeah, sure. Charlie goes on, hardly listening to her as he lists the benefits of staying with him. Canopy bed under the stars, open hearth, 3 square meals a day, radio, heater, white walls. I live in a cab, low mileage, of course. To himself, Charlie is considering the high mileage Anne-Marie should be able to afford him. The secret of Carface's success is now under new management. Carface is not happy. Pip is not a happy pit bull when he learns that his golden goose has been stolen. Through clenched teeth, Carface makes himself understood, loud and clear to Killer. I love that girl. I want her back. Now! Killer slinks away, not about to dispute Carface's sincerity. The scene is definitely more peaceful over by the junkyard, where a full moon glistens over the line of rusted-out cars leading to Charlie's cluttered but cozy taxicab. All the comforts of home are here, including the old Victorola, which plays a soothing jazz number to fit the mood. Charlie is telling a bedtime story for Anne-Marie. Itchy is not impressed. Never mind that his book is upside down, or that it is a copy of War and Peace. Charlie B. Barkin is improvising his own version of Robin Hood. This sheriff is a real bimbo. What say we knock him off and take the gold, not for ourselves, but we'll give it to the poor suckers who got took in the first place. Hey, boss, where do you get that stuff? Itchy grabs the book. What kind of hood is this guy in anyway, giving dough to the poor without taking his cut? I like the story, Mr. Itchy. You would, Itchy accuses Anne-Marie. Shut up, Charlie whispers to Itchy. I'm trying to get the little brat to go to sleep. Charlie polishes off the story of Robin Hood and Maid Marian in another sentence or two, and he announces it's bedtime. Then, tossing an old quilt over Anne-Marie, he draws a curtain which separates the front and the back seats. Itchy and Charlie sit beneath the star-speckled sky outside the cab and talk a little business. Itchy is still nervous about the whole deal. With Carface looking for the girl, it's like sitting on a time bomb. Would you relax? Charlie calms his pal. Carface ain't gonna come looking for her. He thinks I'm dead, remember? Now get some sleep. Tomorrow we take this little time bomb to the horse track, and we make ourselves a fortune. Horsies? Giggles Anne-Marie, who is obviously not asleep. Much to Charlie's dismay, Itchy and Charlie arrange to meet bright and early the next day. Charlie hops into the back seat of the cab and tosses a pillow to Anne-Marie. Just as he settles down, he hears a small voice. Charlie, would you tuck me in, please? With a good-natured smile as he can muster, Charlie briskly tucks her in. No sooner than he is done. Charlie, may I please have a good-night kiss? This request is a little harder for Charlie, but he finally musters the daring to give Anne-Marie a half-hearted lick. As soon as he is back behind the curtain, he wipes off his snout and quietly voices his disgust. Yuck. Thank you for rescuing me. Anne-Marie sweetly praises Charlie as he closes her eyes. An annoying chorus of squeaky springs can be heard from the front seat as Anne-Marie tries to get comfortable. Hey, Squeaker! Charlie calls to Anne-Marie. Knock it off. I'm sorry. Anne-Marie apologizes, but in a moment she crawls beside Charlie, unable to sleep. On the front seat, a desperate Charlie trades places with her, anything to get some sleep. Charlie finally settles down, only to hear the silence broken again. Dear God, thank you so much for my new best friend, Charlie. Charlie tries everything to ignore the prayers. And thank you for sending him to rescue me. He peeks his snout through the seat curtain, annoyed. And God, Bless Mr. Itchy, and God bless Charlie. Amen. Oh, please help me find a mommy and daddy. The little girl's magic has managed to infect Charlie for a moment. As she finishes her prayers, the brazen old mutt is feeling a little bit like a heel. But even so, he is relieved when all is quiet. A sleepy Anne-Marie wonders between yawns, Charlie, do you think you could help me find a mommy and daddy? Kid, I'll help you find the lost city of Atlantis. Just please go to sleep. As the moon shines over the sleepy junkyard, it seems Charlie has at last gotten his silence. Almost. Anne-Marie's urgent whisper pierces the midnight. Charlie, I have to go to the bathroom. Chapter 4. It is a glorious morning at the fairground. Horses can be heard whinnying inside of the bright red-roofed racetrack stable. If the night before Charlie was having a hard time getting Anne-Marie to go to sleep, he's having an even harder time now getting her to talk to the horses. Maybe the horses is too stupid to talk, Itchy suggests. For stating that notion, a bay mare by the name of Stella whinnies loudly and whacks Itchy with a toss of her head, which sends him reeling. Charlie is anxious to know what the horse's name means. What did she say? You sound just like Mr. Carface, Anne-Marie accuses Charlie as she turns her back on him. Charlie is mortified to be compared to his double-crossing ex-partner. What? He's a criminal! Did he read you stories? Charlie pleads, but Anne-Marie avoids him. Charlie struggles to find reasons why he's not just like Carface. Did he give you a comfortable bed? Did he kiss you goodnight? You're talking to Charlie here. I rescued you. With a sudden inspiration, he adds, and besides, we're giving the money to the poor. Boss? Itchy, who is starting to wonder about Charlie's sanity, immediately objects. Sharing money with the poor. Charlie amends his plan. Anne-Marie perks up at this. You mean like Robin Hood? And another thing, Charlie confides. If you're serious about this mommy and daddy business, you're going to need a little dough on your own. You know, new dress, new shoes. I know about these things. Nobody wants a scrawny little doll in rags. Promise? Promise you'll help me find a mommy and daddy? Anne-Marie is growing excited. Sure, I promise. Oh, Charlie. Anne-Marie gives Charlie a great big hug. Any doubts that she had about her best friend have vanished. Itchy is sick of the whole thing. But in her happiness, Anne-Marie scoops him up into her arms as well. Isn't that wonderful? She laughs. He growls at her. Anne-Marie puts the protesting Itchy down at the sound of the bay mare's whinny. Excuse me, Anne-Marie politely approaches the horse. Could you please tell me which one of you is going to win today's race? We're going to give the money to the poor and buy me a new dress so I can get some parents. The stylishly groomed mare neighs her approval and tells Anne-Marie that the Grand Chahi will win because it's his birthday. Anne-Marie repeats this for Itchy and Charlie. The two dogs stare at the Grand Chahi in disbelief. The Grand Chahi is a broken-down plug horse who can't even keep the flies away. But you mustn't tell, Anne-Marie whispers. It's a surprise. I'll say, Itchy mutters, not truly convinced. Charlie's doubts are whinnied away by Stella, and he is ready to place the bet. Of course, placing a bet takes money, and Charlie and Itchy have a mischievous plan to get some. They wander through the racetrack crowds. All we need now is to find a couple of bucks, Charlie figures. A couple of bucks, echoes Itchy. A couple. Anne-Marie picks up the chant thoughtfully. Yeah, a mom and dad. For their pickpocketing purposes, the people Charlie and Itchy over at first all seem too thin or too fat. Suddenly, Anne-Marie, who has been looking over the crowd for apparent material, shouts, Oh, look, Charlie, they're perfect. A young, well-groomed couple stands talking to each other several yards from Anne-Marie. Charlie agrees, but for quite a different reason. He and Itchy begin their plan of attack. While Itchy distracts the couple with his lame dog routine, Charlie attempts to lift the man's wallet with his teeth. Anne-Marie is oblivious to the dog's plan and innocently rushes over to help Itchy. Oh, is this your dog? The woman named Kate wonders.
Well, kind of, Anne-Marie replies. Itchy lets out a howl that startles everyone, allowing Charlie to grab the wallet, and the two dogs disappear into the crowd. Anne-Marie calls after Itchy with great concern. Seems to be just fine, the man named Harold reassures her. What's your name, little girl? The lady asks kindly. Anne-Marie, she informs them coyly with a curtsy. Pleased to meet you. Anne-Marie goes on, hoping to make a good impression, but then she glances down to notice her ragged clothes. I'm getting a new dress, she informs them. Oh, that's nice, dear. Where are your parents? Kate inquires, obviously more concerned with that than Anne-Marie's clothes. Anne-Marie is certain she is making an excellent progress with the couple she has selected when her progress is cut short by an insistent whisper from behind the cluster of bushes. Squeaker, let's go! But I want to talk to the... Anne-Marie starts to whisper back. Come on, we're going to miss the Grand Chahi's birthday. And with that, Charlie plants a man's hat on her head and yanks her away. As an announcer broadcasts the last call for bets, stragglers approach the betting windows. One of them is a man with a strange figure and an equally strange wobble. Anne-Marie, in a mustache and hat, is balanced on Itchy's shoulders, and Itchy is balanced on top of Charlie's shoulders, with the three of them covered by a long coat. The betting information is passed up from Charlie to Itchy to Anne-Marie, who places the bet in the deepest voice she can muster. Grand Chahi to win. The situation has Itchy in a nervous state. He is scratching away, and Anne-Marie must scratch him too before they all fall over. The bespectacled cashier gapes at the Grand Chahi's terrible odds, wondering if this peculiar bettor knows something. It's his birthday, Anne-Marie declares in her regular voice, quickly covering by slipping back into her best baritone. She thanks the cashier for the ticket, and then the three wobble away to the racetrack grandstand. A trumpet blasts the pre-race fanfare. The race will begin any moment. Anne-Marie is licking an ice cream cone, most of which is dripping all over the two dogs inside the coat. Suddenly, the starting bell rings, the gates open, the horses are off. The Grand Chahi manages to leave his post backwards. And as if that were not enough, there is a new stallion in the race, the posh Lord Reginald, who does not know about the Grand Chahi's birthday. Surprise, and is doing his best to win. It does not look good for Grand Chahi, but Anne-Marie believes in him and cheers him on. Come on, Chahi, you can do it. It's your birthday. Yoo-hoo! The mare Stella catches up to Reginald. Jolly good day for a race, what? Reginald exchanges pleasantries in his clipped British accent. Stella wastes no time in telling Reginald exactly what is what in her southern drawl. And the stallion's pace slows on the spot. Stella nudges the pathetic Chahi along and sets the birthday boy into a flying leap over the finish line, into a cloud of dust, much to his and everyone else's amazement. Charlie, Itchy, and Anne-Marie are wild with joy. Anne-Marie has a big kiss for Charlie, which she wipes off with a yuck when she looks back proudly at the Grand Chahi in the winner's circle. And so begins the trio's winning streak. They go to every kind of sporting event with animals, from frog jumping to kangaroo boxing. Anne-Marie has a chat with the animals, determining the winner before each match. And the money pours in for Charlie and his pals. The winnings are piling up, much to Charlie and Itchy's delight. But there is still no parents or for a downhearted Anne-Marie. Charlie is no fool, so when he notices how unhappy Anne-Marie is, he takes her on a shopping spree. Itchy and Charlie yodel their approval as Anne-Marie poses in outfit after outfit. The three feel on top of the world, and in a smart new blue dress, Anne-Marie feels like she has taken the first step toward catching the eye of potential mommies and daddies. At last, the time has come for Charlie to set his grand scheme into motion. The plans are drawn, the junkyard cars are recycled into building material, stacked one on top of the other for construction of Charlie's Gala nightclub. Itchy and his beloved tools receive their best work out ever. At last, the big moment has arrived. Itchy flips the electric switch. A sign comes on. a welcome sign for Charlie's place, lights up, and Christmas lights sparkle to the pinnacle, where colored beams alight the sky. The regulars are all there for the opening. Lights flash and dancing girls line the stage. A red convertible serves as the bar, where the old-timers gather, having more fun than ever at Carface's club. Charlie sports a party hat while he admires himself in a car mirror. He notices one dissatisfied customer, Anne Marie. She's dressed in her ragged old dress and holds her suitcase firmly in one hand. Hey, what is this? What are you doing? Charlie asks her. I'm leaving, a furious Anne Marie announces. You said you were going to help the poor, and you didn't. You promised me to find parents, and you didn't even look. All you do is gamble, and it isn't right. Charlie thinks quick. If he doesn't do something to right things with Anne Marie, she's going to walk out that door. You know something? You're right. What a selfish, callous cat of a heel I've been. Anne Marie isn't buying Charlie's act, but he isn't giving up. Thank you for helping me see the light, Squeaker. We're going to go out and help the poor. Always quick to forgive her best friend, Anne Marie sighs, Oh, Charlie, before planting a kiss on his snout. Of course, when Anne Marie isn't watching, Charlie reacts with his usual yuck. Itchy has witnessed all this and is growing steadily more distressed. Hey, boss, what is it with you and this little kid? I mean, we got a business to run, you know. Wiping off the kiss with a bar towel, Charlie explains. Itchy, we got to keep the little kid happy, right? News travels fast, good for some and not so good for others. Carface is watching as the hungry piranhas in his pit devour a hunk of meat attached to a rope the second it hits the water. The bone that is pulled back out has been stripped clean. Carface is pleased. The next in line to be sent down into the pit is Killer, who is hanging upside down. Carface is seething. He blows smoke into Killer's face as he hisses, Charlie's alive, and I know he's got the girl. Killer, this is strike 2. You're out. No, wait, boss. Boss, Killer protests. I get one more strike, boss, honest. Carface makes up his own rules and coldly orders his goons to lower Killer into the pit. Nothing personal, Killer. It's just business. Killer continues to plead as he is lowered into the dark pit with razor-toothed piranhas jumping below. Carface has sadly come to realize that if he wants something done, he has to do it himself. How to handle Charlie, he wonders aloud. Knives, poison, car didn't work. Something very special. Killer desperately screams as the piranhas snap at him. Boss, pull me up, please. Please, I got a gun. Gun? Carface is interested and growls. What do you mean you have a gun? Carface is in no hurry to pull the hysterical Killer out of the water. What kind of gun? At last, Carface has Killer hoisted back up till they are face to face, upside down. A Flash Gordon therm atomic ray gun, boss. Ray gun! Billows of smoke pour from Carface's devilish grin, accompanied by a most sinister laugh. Chapter 5. A spooky cackle is heard from an old abandoned stone church surrounded by a graveyard beneath gnarled trees. Who does his evil deeds in the shadow dark of night? The Phantom does. The disembodied voice laughs as a strange shadow lurches up on the long dilapidated rows of stairs. Then a familiar voice, huffing and puffing, says, These are some of the poorest people I know. It's Charlie and Anne Marie, and Charlie is balancing 5 flat boxes on top of his head. As their heads peer over the top step, they see a dozen members of Flo's puppy orphanage transfixed on a radio horror show in a time-worn room cluttered with mismatched second-hand furniture. The sound of a creaking door, and a loud scream from the radio sets the puppies to yapping nervously. Charlie breaks the tension by calling out, Hey, anybody order a pizza? Charlie! The delighted puppies greet their pal. This is soon followed by a chorus of squeals for pizza. In no time, the noisy puppies are dispersing in goo of cheese and tomatoes and olives and anchovies. Anne Marie and Charlie laugh at the messy scene. Charlie tries to be heard above the confusion. Hold it. The pups look up at Charlie as Charlie continues. I want you kids to meet a very, very special guest, Anne Marie. Still giggling a bit over the ever-polite Anne Marie curtsies. Pleased to meet you. The puppies pause for a moment to eye up the new visitor, but then dive back to attack their pizza feast. Flo, the caretaker of these fun-loving orphan pups, is an elegant, fur-collared collie. She can't help but laugh, too. Hello, Charlie. It's nice to see you. It's nice of you to come by. We don't see much of you anymore. Well, you know how it is. I've got a business to run. One of the little pups, covered in cheese, is anxious for a second on pizza and gets Charlie's attention by teething playfully on his leg. Uncle Charlie, the young beagle asks, can I have some more? Charlie is too happy to indulge the puppy and shoves the whole box at him. This sets the puppies to fighting over pizza, all the pizza that is left. Uncle Charlie does his best to teach the puppies about sharing. The puppies are unwilling students at first, but then makes a game of the lesson. Alas, when it's time for dessert, the puppies look like they have already forgotten about sharing as they throw themselves on the lush chocolate cake. Away from the hubbub, Anne Marie finds a wallet on the floor by the circular stairs going up to the attic. She opens up the wallet and sees the wedding photo of Kate and Harold, the couple from the racetrack. Charlie, where did you get this? Well, You stole it? Anne Marie gasps. Charlie is ashamed. I was going to give it back, he lies. You stole it, is all the horrified child can say with tears in her eyes. Hey, Squeaker, come on, kid. Charlie doesn't really know what to say at this time. Anne Marie feels all alone and climbs the spiral stairs up to the narrow moonlit church attic without even looking back. One of the tiny girl pups, a satin cocker spaniel, slowly follows her. With her stuffed rag doll nearby, Anne Marie sits on a soft feather blanket near a window that is illuminated by the night sky. Stars twinkle outside as the gazes of the pictures of Kate and Harold, and only imagines what it would be like if she and all the puppies in the orphanage could be a part of their happy family. While she is dreaming, the puppy curls up beside her. Oh, how wonderful life would be if the people would be with the people in the wallet. Anne Marie can picture all the moments she would share with Kate and Harold. Working, playing, going for drives, romping in the park or by the shores, saying a blessing at a mealtime, reading together and being tucked in at night. It is all so beautiful and loving and wistful. Anne Marie keeps this dream locked in her heart. There are all kinds of dreams, daydreams and pleasant dreams, with Anne Marie drifts off to sleep this night. And then there are dreams that are not so warming, bad dreams. Charlie is also asleep at the old church. The ticking of his heavenly watch begins pulsing with the whippet's warning, "You can never come back." Charlie is having a nightmare visit to a very different great hall of judgment. In his imagination, his watch explodes, jolting him into a place paved with dark, threatening cumulus clouds, nerve-jarring electrical currents, and rockets of fire unleashed from the ground. A terrified Charlie tries to flee, but a black funnel engulfs him. As he is being sucked in, a howling Charlie is deposited into a fiery pit of red-hot molten lava. A winged black hooded creature greets him with a fearsome grin. Charlie falls into a small boat, only to see the evil dog who rules over the forsaken place of endless despair rise from the sea of flames. Thunder and lightning boom and cackle. The fire-breathing evil dog roars with wicked pleasure. Now you are mine! This dog blasts his fiery breath at Charlie, spitting fireballs, which transform into evil canine sprites that torment the helpless mutt. Charlie has nowhere to escape, sinking into the lava until at last these gruesome noises and sights are replaced by the voices of the dear little orphan pups, waking him up from his worst of all possible bad dreams. When he is finally able to shake off these terrifying images, Charlie's first thought is of Anne-Marie. Where's the kid? She went to 402 Maple Street, a pink ribbon puppy tells him, straining to remember, to the Wallet family. At the home of Kate and Harold, Anne-Marie finds all of her dreams are coming to life. Kate and Harold, dressed in their night clothes, are even more wonderful in person. They were so grateful for the girl performing the good deed of returning their wallet that they invited Anne-Marie to stay for breakfast. You like waffles? Kate asks as she cooks some right at the sunny kitchen table. Anne-Marie has a mouthful of the delicious breakfast, but manages to answer, "Oh, yes, very much, thank you." "No, thank you," Harold says over his opening newspaper, thinking about the returned wallet. "This is the most beautiful house I've ever seen," Anne-Marie compliments between chews. "Well, thank you, Anne-Marie. Where do you live?" Kate inquires as she serves Anne-Marie another waffle and pours syrup over it. "I live with Charlie," Anne-Marie explains as her eyes grow wide watching the thick syrup over the waffle. "He's my dog." "Ah," Kate exclaims. "But what about your parents?" "I don't have any parents." "Then where do you stay?" Harold wonders, becoming more concerned. "With Charlie in the junkyard." Anne-Marie says matter-of-factly, taking another mouthful of food. "Oh, my," Kate murmurs to herself. "Anne-Marie, you sit right there." Kate motions for Harold to come with her as she gets up from the table. "Honey, come with me." The worried couple stand outside the kitchen trying to figure out what to do. Anne-Marie can see them from the breakfast table, but is distracted by the loud psst. She opens one of the bay windows to the garden outside and hears another psst from down in the bed of daisies. "Oh, Charlie," Anne-Marie gushes. "Harold and Kate are really wonderful. They weren't upset about the wallet. They gave me waffles with butter and syrup." "Really?" Charlie chuckles nervously. "That's great. I'm glad to see you found a home for yourself." "Do you think so?" Anne-Marie asks hopefully. "Sure. In fact, I just came over to say goodbye." "Goodbye?" Charlie realizes that Kate and Harold are stiff competition for him, so he really lays it on. "Well, I guess you won't be needing me anymore." "Maybe you could stay too," Anne-Marie suggests to a dejected-looking Charlie. No, I couldn't stay. I don't want to spoil it for you. They don't want a dirty old dog like me in a nice, clean home like this." Charlie looks at Anne-Marie, trying to appear as pathetic as possible. "But Charlie," Anne-Marie protests. "Don't worry about me," Charlie insists, although that is exactly what he wants. "I'll make it somehow." He adds, his voice fading. He hacks out a worrisome whooping cough. "By the way, you were one of the best friends I ever had." He coughs out the final zinger. "Enjoy your waffles." Charlie, wait!" Anne-Marie desperately calls after him, climbing out the open window. Anne-Marie could never desert her best friend, not even for her dream. Carface and his thugs have been tailing Charlie, and now they are following him and Anne-Marie as the two stroll through the fruit displays of an open-air French market without a care in the world. They will soon be feeling otherwise. Carface dressed today in an army helmet, as Charlie in the sights of Killer's ray gun. "All right, a little more to the left," Carface orders to Killer, who is balancing the gun. "I don't want you to hit the girl." Steady, steady, hold it. When Charlie is centered in the gun sights, Carface sneers and gleefully bids farewell. Goodbye, Charlie. Bursts of lights explode around Charlie, and he is zapped by the flash of the Gordon thermal atomic ray. Oh no, Charlie! Cried a shocked Anne-Marie as the ray gun blasts her pal and demolishes the barrel of apples behind him. Got him, crows a satisfied Carface. Anne-Marie shakes Charlie, terrified, calling his name. Slightly dazed but still alive, Charlie clasps his heavenly watch, which is merely nicked, and exclaims, Whew, you beautiful little ticket. But there is not a moment to lose. The two have to move fast to escape the menacing gang. Come on, we've got to get out of here, Charlie urges as he scoops Anne-Marie onto his back and runs. He's getting away, Carface barks. Fire! Killer fires. The weapon shoots out of control, pureeing the fruit and vegetable displays and anything else in its way. Killer can't turn the ray blast off, leaving Carface and his goons scrambling and dancing to avoid being hit. I'm surrounded by morons. Carface rages as Charlie and Anne-Marie disappear over the vegetable stalls and duck into a warehouse. Charlie and Anne-Marie hide in a broken-down wooden theater storehouse that is crammed with stage props and costumes. When it seems the coast is clear, they surface, each decked out in a bit of colorful finery. You okay, Squeaker? Asks Charlie, wearing a fire hydrant over his head draped in strings of pearls. Anne-Marie emerges topped with a plumed Peter Pan hat. Oh, Charlie, I thought they shot you. So did I, but Mr. Carface doesn't know who he's dealing with. I got power of my own, and I'm gonna take care of him right now. Charlie paces across the rickety floorboards, and there ain't nothing or nobody that's gonna stop me. Charlie snaps his jaws to show he means business. The floorboards creak and groan worse than ever, starting to shake apart beneath his weight. Uh-oh. Walk softly, kid, Charlie warns Anne-Marie as she steps near him. Not softly enough. The floorboards give way with a crash as they plummet into the hole. Along with a trail of theater props, Anne-Marie and Charlie's screams echo a long way down. They land with a splash in the darkness below. Only an occasional drip of water punctuates the silence. In the underground swamp, surrounded by moss-covered rafters and rubble accumulated over years. My watch! Where's my watch? Charlie calls, frantically realizing he's lost it during the fall. Anne-Marie, who is developing a cough, is more concerned about where they are. I don't know, but we've got to find that watch. A terrified Charlie starts splashing around in ankle-deep water as he desperately searches, racing around hysterically until he hears the comforting ticking. At last, the ticking suddenly stops. Goodbye, Anne-Marie, Charlie sighs as he's reconciled his fate and lies down in the water. Charlie, where are you going, Charlie? Anne-Marie shakes him. Now there is a sound of multiple ticking. This is Charlie confused. There it is, Charlie exclaims as he sees his watch bouncing along in the water as it's carried off by an unseen power. What's going on here, Charlie? Charlie! Screams Anne-Marie as the two are levitated away in the same manner as Charlie's precious watch into the pitch-black shadows of the swamp. When they can see again, the two find themselves prisoners of a tribe of chanting, drum-pounding pygmy rats, dressed in superstitious garb of teeth and bones. Hundreds of tiny torches are aflame in the eerie underground cavern. Charlie and Anne-Marie are locked in rattan cages that swing from a long rope. The rhythmic chanting and grunting grow stronger. Something is going to happen. As his cage is moved along, Charlie, with great effort, just manages to grab his watch before the cage is dropped over the ledge of the village onto the shore, heaped with bones from past sacrifices. Much to his dismay, the thud from the fall causes Charlie and his watch to be separated yet again. The pink and purple pygmy rats stand at the edge of the high wooden platform to wait and watch. A gong is sounded. It reverberates ominously. A pair of massive bamboo gates open in the water. A huge figure can be seen just under the surface of the water, honing in on Charlie and Anne-Marie like an enemy submarine. Charlie, what's moving under the water? I don't know. Charlie's voice is quivering as he sees a gigantic reptilian tail snaking around. When the biggest alligator imaginable rises onto the beach, Charlie resigns. Squeaker, we're gonna die. The ground shakes as King Gator trounces toward his victims with massive jewel-ringed feet. He wears a bone through his nose, a festive necklace of feathers, and a tiny can for a hat. The monstrous reptile grunts contentedly with every booming step. Charlie ignoring Charlie's pleas for his watch, he trods right over it. Chapter 6. King Gator stalks right up to the cage. Ah, you look tasty. Like New Orleans canine gumbo, croons the alligator in his deep bass drawl. He looks Charlie over as if he were a 3-course meal. No, don't eat him, please, Anne-Marie begs, as the King Gator pops Charlie into his toothy mouth, cage and all. Charlie howls his final yodel and with everything he's got. Ah! King Gator is enchanted by his dinner's dulcet tones and takes Charlie back out of his mouth. How could you expect me to eat a voice as sumptuous as that? Charlie can't hang the watch back around his neck fast enough. King Gator continues to sing praises of Charlie's voice, so thrilled by it that he smashes his massive tail on the ground. The earth shakes in Anne-Marie's cage, flying into the water, freeing her. Oh, what do you call that voice, little fella? That a baritone or a tenor? King Gator doesn't really care as long as they can make music together. Ah, sweet harmony. The alligator transforms the cavern with his singing into sparkling, colorful Hollywood musical set, and together the duo declare they will always be musical brothers. This is for you, Mama, the hip gator calls to Anne-Marie as he and Charlie pass her, but Charlie notices his little friend is looking rather pale. You okay, Squeaker? At first, Anne-Marie can only cough, but then she murmurs, Charlie, I don't feel good. As the King Gator belts out a big finish to the song, Charlie and Anne-Marie are safely escorted out from the underground passage on the belly of their musical friend. While Anne-Marie and Charlie have escaped one close call after another, Itchy is about to have one of his own close encounter of the worst kind. Itchy has been managing the booming business at Charlie's place while Charlie is away. After another busy night, he is cleaning up the bar and calls to Rocky. Relieve Jocko on guard duty. I need some help in here. Rocky? Rocky? With every unanswered call, Itchy becomes more concerned. Rocky! Jocko! But the answer that greets Itchy is the looming hulk of Carface climbing over the counter, sneering at him. Where's the girl? Carface demands of a shuddering Itchy. I don't know. I think you do. What do you think, boys? Carface seeks opinions from his thugs, who now gather around the car-turned bar in which Itchy is trapped. Please don't do this, Itchy pleads. Carface is holding him around the neck. Oh, Charlie, Itchy whimpers feebly, wishing his pal were there. Oh no, this is a very bad idea. To Charlie with love, Carface proclaims, then flicks open his razor-sharp claws to engrave the message. Itchy squirms around as best as he can to avoid becoming a living telegram. The situation has grown worse for Anne-Marie's health. She is very sick, and Charlie has taken her to Flo at the abandoned church on the chance that she can help. She's burning up with a fever, Charlie. She could have pneumonia, Flo worries as Anne-Marie moans. You think she needs a vet? Charlie, she's a little girl. She needs a doctor. A doctor? I don't know any doctors. Charlie is worried too, and he longs to do anything that he can to help Anne-Marie. I'll find one. From downstairs, a battered Itchy hollers weakly in search of his friend. Charlie, Charlie, are you here? Hey, be quiet. Little Squeaker's sick and needs her sleep. Oh, you're breaking my heart, Itchy limps along. Maybe you want I should go upstairs and kiss her good night. Then Charlie notices his friend's condition. Itch, what happened to you? What happened to me? You want to know what happened to me? He continues angrily. Carface happened to me, with about 50 of his thugs. Itchy painfully makes his way up the stairs to Charlie. That dirty rat. I'm sorry, Itch. I'm really sorry. Well, look. What else happened while you were sidetracked? Itchy directs Charlie to look out at the broken arched window. See that? The two gaze at the dense plumes of smoke filling the sky from the burning ruins of Charlie's nightclub. That's our place. You were going to fix Carface. Well, he fixed us. Charlie stares in silence as his dream exploded into flames. Itchy can't take any more. All of the grievances that he has kept to himself since Charlie's return now come pouring out. See, boss, it's gone too far. You want revenge on Carface? And I said, no, please, let's just get out of town. But I said, because you're my friend, and then you wanted to kidnap the girl, and I said, this is crazy, but I helped you anyway. And then we gotta dress the girl and read her stories, and she wants that we should feed the poor, and the whole while I'm thinking this is stupid, she's gonna get us killed. But I stay because I'm your friend. But tonight, Itchy breaks down tearfully. Tonight, Charlie, he tried to kill me, and you was out gallivanting with this girl. I say, we should lose the girl. Get out of town, Charlie, you and me, and call it even. Charlie sympathizes with his friend, but he still wants to destroy Carface and his empire. Ah, Itchy. Now, the casino's gone. We gotta start all over. We need the girl more than ever. Itchy is close to tears when he interrupts. No, boss, you're crazy. It's not business anymore. It's personal. Ah, come on, Itchy. Sure, it's just business. You're in love with the girl. You've gone soft. You care about her. All this yelling has awakened Anne-Marie, who is slowly descending the stairs from the attic. Charlie will say anything to keep Itchy on his side, so the last thing he would admit are his feelings for Anne-Marie. So determined he is not to show how much he cares that Charlie raises his voice to protest. What Itchy jealously knows is true. I don't care about that girl. Yeah, I tell her things now and then. I even pretend to be her best friend. But it's baloney. I thought I was your best friend, Itchy points out, hoping for Charlie to agree. You are my best friend, Charlie shouts. With her, it's just business. It's always just been business. I'm using the girl, and when we're done with her, we'll dump her in an orphanage. Is that okay with you? Itchy didn't mean for it to go this far. Sure, boss, he said meekly. Anything you say. Oh. Itchy realizes Anne-Marie has been standing behind them, clutching her rag doll, listening the whole time. She has overheard everything. The tears in her eyes give way to sobs. You're not my friend. You're a bad dog. Squeaker! Charlie is horrified and hangs his head in shame. He calls after her to explain, but this time Anne-Marie isn't waiting around for any more of his stories. She has been betrayed. Anne-Marie! Squeaker! He calls as she walks briskly down the stone steps and out of the dark church and into the rainy night. Charlie follows her, running through the graveyard, searching frantically. He spots Anne-Marie's stuffed toy just as it is set aglow by a flash of lightning. In that instant, Anne-Marie screams, Carface! Charlie realizes that his foe must have gotten his paws on Anne-Marie now. Charlie, his heart is pounding, rushes off in the direction of the scream, still calling her name. Chapter 7. By now, Itchy has been following as fast as his injuries will allow, and Flo, who came running as soon as she heard Anne-Marie scream, both arrive at the little stuffed toy. Out of breath and upset, at the terrible turn of the events, Flo instructs Itchy to take this to 402 Maple Street. She has friends there, and they'll know what to do. And hurry. Without hesitating, Itchy grabs the rag doll gingerly between his teeth and sloshes through the slippery rain-drenched streets of New Orleans. He climbs up the heap of old furniture to bark outside one of the elegant old manor houses. An old mustachioed terrier emerges onto one of the ornately wrought iron balconies. "What's at 402 Maple Street?" the terrier asks curiously. Itchy is out of breath with no time for long stories. "Would you just tell me where it is? Please, Charlie's in trouble. There's a little girl. The little girl's real sick." The terrier gives Itchy the directions. "What was all this about?" asks a frumpy Great Dane, aroused by the din. "Charlie's in trouble, and the little girl may die," the terrier tells him. Both dogs now bark out this urgent news, and soon more dogs are barking, passing the word along. Soon all across the rain-drenched city come the echoed howls of dog telephone chain. Charlie has followed Anne-Marie's scent to Carface's place. The storm-racked river is washing up against the boat in large crashing waves. Inside, Charlie finds the cage over a wide-mouthed anchor shaft to the bayou below, where Anne-Marie is now being imprisoned. Suspended, Charlie climbs up onto a stack of wobbling crates and looks in at his friend, who is cold and wet and shivering with fever. "Anne-Marie, Anne-Marie," Charlie whispered, as loud as he dares. "Come on, Squeaker, wake up. I'm gonna get you out of here." A moan, a cough, are all that the little girl can manage from her tiny bed in the cage. "You really are sick, aren't you?" Charlie says as he jumps down into the cage. "Just hold on, kiddo. I'm gonna take you back to the Wallet family." As Charlie is lifting the sick child into his arms, an all too familiar and all too unpleasant laugh is heard. "Well, isn't this just the sweetest thing?" Carface reminds sarcastically as his thugs, who are peering down at Charlie, "Take 'em, boys." Carface barks to his ferocious gang, who are only too happy to follow the order. Growling dogs pounce on Charlie from all directions. He fights them bravely, spurred on by his desire to help Anne-Marie. Others are trying to save the little girl, too. A loud commotion of yipping and barking awakens Kate and Harold. The sleepy couple walk down the stairs. Harold opens the door just enough to get a look at what is making a racket in the middle of the night. "What is it, dear?" Kate yawns. "Dogs," Harold tells her, rather surprised. He opens the door a crack for another look. The front porch is filled with barking dogs of all sizes and breeds. Itchy demonstrates the rag doll to Harold, who is too flabbergasted to notice. As the robed owner of the house moves the door shut, Itchy spots his chance to slip through the small opening into the house and right through Harold's legs. Once inside, Itchy goes up the steps, getting the rag doll exhaustedly before Kate, who is becoming more and more alarmed. Harold, do something." Kate stutters nervously. Charlie is still fighting gamely against Carface's goons. Two burly Dobermans grab a hold of struggling Charlie and tie him down with twine on the boat's massive anchor. In his efforts to break loose, Charlie kicks away an attacking wolfhound, who retaliates by chomping down with razor teeth as hard as he can on Charlie's toes. The only possible response from Charlie is one tremendous howl of pain. There is only one dog in the world who can howl like that. From the depths of the watery empire, King Gator hears his friend's musical strains bellow across the stormy night and surfaces to find its source. The anchor Charlie is strapped to is being lowered towards the waves below its final destination. Around Charlie's neck, the heavenly watch is ticking louder and louder with the growing danger. Garface laughs. "So you see, Charlie, the story has a happy ending." The anchor slows before its final plunge into the river, so Carface can explain himself, perched on a pier that faces his adversary. I keep the girl and make a fortune, and you get to go to heaven. Carface shoves a sticky candy cane in Charlie's mouth, so Charlie can only offer a muffled protest. The anchor is sinking into the water. You don't want to go to heaven, Charlie? Carface taunts his victim. Up to his neck in the river now, Charlie uses the end of the candy cane hook, his heavenly watch, the end of the candy cane to hook his heavenly watch in order to protect it above the water. If he lets the timepiece fill with water, Charlie knows it may stop ticking forever. Suddenly, a thunderous crash has all the dogs looking up in alarm. King Gator explodes through one side of the ship and out the other, splintering and uprooting anything that stands in his wake. A panicky voice screams, "Abandon ship! Let's get out of here!" Another cries. Carface and Killer watch as King Gator zooms underwater to rescue Charlie, who is by now totally immersed, watch and all. With a well-placed snap of his mighty jaws, King Gator releases the loud musical hound, who makes up for the surface before his watch stops. The sight of Charlie scrambling onto the pier alive is too much for Carface. The fuming pitbull cannot find the words to adequately express his rage. He is left standing there, eyes bulging, uttering shouts of frustration. Meanwhile, Kate and Harold, along with Itchy, and it seemed every dog in town, are racing to the city roads on their way to the waterfront. There, Charlie and Carface engage in wrestling battle, while King Gator continues to assault the ship like an out-of-control torpedo. As the vessel rocks and the rope holding Anne-Marie's cage snaps, dropping the girl into the raging river, Charlie sees this in horror, abandoning his fight with Carface. Anne-Marie! As he makes his way toward her ship, the ship, fatally damaged, rolls over. Oil barrels topple and spill into the water, where sparks from the electric generators set the water surface ablaze. Anne-Marie! Charlie calls frantically as he spots his human friend lying unconscious on a small crate ringed by the sea of flames. Charlie hangs his watch on a hook for safekeeping before he attempts a dangerous dive into the waters below to save her. From behind, with a blood-curdling growl, Carface leaps upon Charlie's back and sinks his teeth into his neck. Charlie screams in agony and snatches his watch back, only to drop it. Luckily, it lands on a small crate bobbing over the bayou's surface, sending it plummeting toward the fiery water below. King Gator rams the ship again, tossing both Charlie and Carface off the ledge above the burning waters. Carface barely manages to hang on to Charlie. The pit bull loses his grip, slips from Charlie's back, and free falls. Carface doesn't have long to tread water below. King Gator sizes him up and delivers his culinary evaluation of Carface. Delicious. Before swimming after the petrified dog. Charlie readies himself and dives into the water. He paddles over to a piece of floating wood and recovers his watch, but with a quick glance over his shoulder, he realizes that he hasn't a moment to spare. Anne-Marie slips from the bobbing crate into the water. Anne-Marie! Charlie calls from above the orange waters. Charlie places his watch on the crate before plunging after her. He gathers up Anne-Marie and starts to bring her to the surface. Above, the fiery log falls onto the crate, upsetting Charlie's watch, which sinks into the water. While grabbing for the watch, Charlie loses his hold on Anne-Marie. In clutching her again, the watch slips away. Charlie grimaces in frustration. He has to get the watch. When he reaches after it, he almost drops the girl. Charlie looks at Anne-Marie's sweet face and knows what he must do. Holding her, he swims to the surface. His watch, meanwhile, sinks to the muddy bottom of the river, where it lands with a thud and bangs open. Charlie and Anne-Marie come shooting up out of the water, coughing and gasping for air, through a hole in the bottom of the boat. Fires are still blazing all around them. Charlie gently lifts Anne-Marie onto a panel of driftwood floating inside the boat and gives it a mighty shove along a safe path, a hole in the ship's hull. You can make it. You can make it, kid. Charlie calls after her with as much hope as confidence, and she does. Anne Marie atop the board flows out of the ship on the water current spilling through the King Gator's wreckage. Charlie sees that she is safely through and can go after his watch, but already his body is beginning to twitch and contort to the abuse his watch is taking in the river bottom. Charlie dives down to find it, but the casing inside the watch housing and wheels and cogs that make it work is filling steadily with water. The ticking of the watch starts to slow until the gears have totally drowned. The ticking sputters to a stop. The wreck of a boat that was once Carface and Charlie's place is finished off by a final magnificent explosion that lights up the night, slipping finally beneath the churning sea. Itchy and his troop of dogs arrive in time to see the smoking remains of the ship disappear. Itchy and Flo paddle out away into the water, looking out over the wreckage. Itchy simply says, "Charlie," as if in his heart he knew what had happened. The sea is calming. Out from the smoky mist appears a raft being slowly pushed to the shore by Killer. Anne Marie, unable to stop coughing, lies weakly on her stomach. Police officers warn people to stand back as the red lights of the patrol cars flash rhythmically. Kate and Harold are waiting with the dogs and gasp in alarm when they catch sight of Anne Marie as her raft floats into the rays of the searchlights. Ambulance attendants rush to shore with a stretcher, waiting to tend to the sick little girl. This long night is almost over. The storm has passed. A full moon rests peacefully behind the Victorian house at 402 Maple Street, where lights still burn in the windows while the rest of the city sleeps. Itchy limps into the spacious bedroom at Kate and Harold's house, where Anne Marie is asleep under a pink quilt, her head nestled on a fluffy white pillow. Exhausted, Itchy jumps onto the bed and curls up next to the little girl. The latch of the window clicks open, the curtains billow from a gust of wind, and a few stray leaves flutter into the room. An eerie red glow overtakes the gabled rooftops outside, rising up into the shape of the evil dog, his evil light swirling around and around until it seeps into the bedroom and engulfs the room and the canopied bed. From out of this fiery mist, the figure of Charlie materializes. He jumps down by the side of the bed where his two friends are sleeping. "Oh, Squeaker," whispers Charlie as he lays his head on his paws. "I'm so sorry. I'm so very sorry." Anne Marie continues to sleep. From the red glare, the evil dog calls Charlie's name in a haunting roar that knows no mercy. But what comes in response to the evil dog's call is a glowing blue sphere of lights and sparkling. This glittering presence confronts the force of despair and gloom. Suddenly, the image of the demon explodes, and the harsh red gives way to the gentle blue glow that sparkles across the city and into the bedroom where Anne Marie sleeps. The room is bathed in a soothing aura of twinkling lights. Now a very different voice calls to Charlie. It is filled with peace. "Charlie, Charlie, you can come home now." "You said I..." An astonished Charlie starts to speak as he recognizes the voice of the Whippet from the Great Hall of Judgment. "Charlie, you gave your life for her. Come home." "But what about Anne Marie? Say goodbye, Charlie." Charlie is overcome with emotion. He has so much to say to Anne Marie. There is so much in his heart that he has never told her. Slowly he reaches out a paw to her, then jumps on the bed. He gazes at her, not knowing where to begin. Anne Marie yawns and opens her eyes wide in joy at seeing her friend. "Charlie!" Anne Marie is sleepy but pleased. "Yeah, it's me. How you feeling, kid?" "Okay, how are you?" "I've come to say goodbye," Charlie tells her, doing his best to be strong. Where are you going? Just on a little trip. Listen, Squeaker, I want you to do something for me, all right? Uh-huh. Anne-Marie nods against her pillows. I want you to take care of Itchy, just while I'm gone. You got a home now, and he doesn't have anybody. Anne-Marie reaches out to hug Itchy, and Charlie knows his little pal will be okay. Don't worry, Charlie, I will. Great. Charlie clears his throat, not quite knowing what to do next. Then he pats his sleeping Itchy and bids him farewell. Goodbye, little buddy. Anne-Marie throws her arms around Charlie with a lump in her throat and says, Oh, Charlie, I'll miss you. She kisses Charlie on the tip of his nose. Charlie nervously clears his throat again, but does not wipe away this last kiss from Anne-Marie. I'll miss you too, Squeaker. Now you go to sleep. Anne-Marie settles back into bed. Charlie, will I ever see you again? Charlie's eyes fill with tears, and he reflected an image of Anne-Marie, puts on a brave front. Sure you will, kid. You know the goodbyes aren't forever. Then goodbye, Charlie, Anne-Marie says, having complete faith in her best friend that she's ever had. She pats him tenderly. I love you. These words touch Charlie, and swept by emotion, he can barely reply. He steadies himself, and nuzzling his face as close as he can to Anne-Marie's whispers, I love you too. Having finally admitted this, Charlie can hardly bear to leave the girl, but when she yawns, he reluctantly pulls himself away. The comforting light that has been waiting patiently for him now leads him to the open window and fades into the distance. Charlie turns his head for one last look at Anne-Marie. A cascade of glistening orange light fills the sky. Charlie, come home. The whippet gently calls to him. Charlie leaps into the growing brightness against the sparkling mauve firmament. Charlie is once again floating contentedly on his own private pink cloud near the whippet, on hers almost contentedly, that is. The heavenly choir is just a bit too tame for Charlie's taste. Hold it. I know we're dead up here, but so's the music. Come on, heat it up a little bit. The choir follows Charlie's suggestion, and soon the place is jumping. Charlie be barking as a dog with pizzazz wherever he is. A familiar, gravelly voice creates an ugly disturbance. Yeah, I'll get that gator if it's the last thing I do, roars a hopping mad Carface as he rips off his heavenly wings and robe at the entrance of the great hall of judgment. Touch that clock and you'll never come back, warns the whippet, still enclosed in a bubble of light. Shut up, Carface mouths off, already busy tampering his heavenly timepiece. Putting aside her polite attempts to reason with Carface, the whippet trails him with all the fury she can muster. I said touch that watch and you can never come back. A happier and wiser Charlie adds with a winking wink. He'll be back.